The silver spires of the Ixion capital shimmered under the light of their twin suns, a scene of serene, calculated beauty. Within the grand conclave chamber, that serenity was a thin veneer over a profound and weary tension. For 3 generations, the Ixion hegemony and the aggressive, mineral-hungry Cathari Imperium had been locked in a cold war, a conflict fought through proxies and economic strangleholds. It was a war slowly, but surely bleeding the hegemony dry. The treaty laid upon the obsidian table offered a startling solution. Not an exchange of territory or wealth, but of persons. A political marriage, binding the ruling houses. The Ixion offer was their most celebrated diplomat, a woman of peerless grace and strategic mind. The Cathari, in a move seen as both insult and bizarre concession, offered a soldier. Not a general, not a prince, but a frontline infantryman from their human auxiliary forces. To the Ixion ruling council. It was a perfect, bloodless piece of symbolism. The human was a vassal species, his presence a reminder of Cathari dominance, yet his marriage would fulfill the letter of the treaty. He was a placeholder, a living signature. His wife saw him the same way on their union day. He stood beside her at the ceremony, clad in a simple, unfamiliar uniform, his demeanor quiet, his eyes holding a stillness that she mistook for blankness. He was shorter than her slender 7-foot frame, his physique solid where Ixions were willowy. His name was a simple, blunt sound in her melodic language. He was a sacrifice, as she was. Peace moved on a galactic board. Their life in her spire apartment was one of polite, silent coexistence. He did not try to engage in courtly intrigues. He spent hours maintaining a small, sealed case he had brought, its contents unknown. He learned her customs with respectful diligence, but offered nothing of his own world. She found him peaceful to the point of invisibility, a ghost in her meticulously ordered life. The marriage was a success. The Cold War continued to thaw. She began to believe they had purchased peace with mere awkwardness. That belief shattered with the shriek of atmospheric alarms. The Cathari Imperium, fractured by the peace treaty, had spawned a splinter fleet. They saw the Union as betrayal. Their assault on the capital was not for conquest, but for extermination, a bloody message carved into the heart of the hegemony. Energy beams split the sky. The graceful defense drones were swatted aside like insects. Shock troops, all chitin and rage, descended upon the central districts in brutal drop pods. Chaos erupted in the spire. The gentle gravity plating failed, sending furniture and art floating. The elegant, defenseless Ixion guards were cut down in the hallways by kinetic weapons that ignored their personal shields. She stood frozen in their chambers, the sounds of slaughter echoing closer, her diplomatic mind utterly useless against this raw brutality. She turned to find her husband already moving. The quiet man was gone. His movements were not frantic, but precise, a sequence of actions unlocked by crisis. He slapped a seal on the door controls, locking it. With a thumbprint, his small case hissed open. Inside was not finery, but a form-fitting combat suit of dull gray, unadorned and severe. He pulled it on with an efficiency that spoke of 1,000 repetitions. "What are you doing?" Her voice was a whisper. "Buying time," he said, his voice still calm, but now it had the density of a dying star. The suit integrated with a soft hum. He retrieved 2 objects from the case, a heavy, blocky pistol and a compact, rectangular device with a handle. A pistol? Against an assault force? Despair gripped her. Our own guards have energy rifles. They are gone. He checked the weapon. Kinetics have their uses. He tossed the rectangular device to her. It was heavier than it looked. Magnetic clamp. Stick it to the wall behind the balcony. Do not stand in front of it. The door began to glow orange under cutter beams. He did not look at it. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw what was in his eyes. It was not rage nor fear. It was assessment. A terrible, focused clarity. He was reading the room, the situation her, as a system to be managed. Stay behind me. Then behind cover. Do not speak. The door exploded inward in a shower of molten alloy. 2 hulking Cathari warriors clambered through, their carapace armor scarred, their insectoid eyes glowing with battle fever. They raised their plasma casters. Her husband was already displaced. He did not dive. He flowed to the side, the suit amplifying his motion. The pistol spoke. It did not bark or sizzle. It gave a deep, resonant thump. The first warrior did not spark or flare. A section of its carapace simply shattered inwards, and it collapsed, a sack of broken chitin. The second warrior fired, a bolt of superheated plasma that melted a column. The human had already closed the distance. He moved inside the warrior's reach, too close for the long caster. His free hand, clad in the armored gauntlet, shot out in a blur. There was a sharp, sickening crack as he struck a specific joint in the warrior's limb. The weapon clattered. The pistol pressed under the warrior's mandible. Thunk dot, it was over in 4 seconds. He did not pause. He moved to the doorway, a shadow against the frantic light of fires in the corridor. She stumbled to the balcony, fumbling with the device. It snapped to the wall with a solid clang. She turned just in time to see him step into the hall. What followed was not a battle as her people understood it. It was not an exchange of volleys or a contest of shield strengths. It was anatomy and physics raised to the level of a brutal art. 3 more warriors came around the bend. He fired twice. One shot punched through the lead warrior and into the second, a muted double impact. The third fell as a small, disc-like object he had tossed earlier adhered to its chest and emitted a silent pulse. The warrior's nervous system seemed to short-circuit. It twitched and fell. He moved down the corridor, not with reckless speed, but with an inexorable predatory pace. He used everything. A fallen decorative column became a brief shield. A malfunctioning grav plate, flickering on and off, became a trap he lured a warrior into, watching dispassionately as it flailed in variable gravity before a single shot ended it. He seemed to know where they would be, how they would react. He was not fighting them as an equal. He was dismantling them as a technician would faulty machinery. She watched from the doorway, her mind reeling. This was the peaceful man who drank tea and studied Ixion horticulture. This was the symbol. He was a god of battle, but not a raging one. A silent, efficient god of targeted cessation. He reached a junction where a group of Ixion survivors were pinned down by a Cathari, heavy weapon emplacement. The weapons operator was behind a shimmering shield, raining plasma down the hall. Her husband stopped. He studied the scene for a moment. Then he did something inexplicable. He holstered his pistol. He reached to his belt, unclipped a cylinder, and with a casual underhand toss, sent it bouncing down the corridor, not toward the shield, but towards the ceiling above it. A flash, then a deafening crump. A section of the ceiling, a dense aggregate, collapsed directly onto the emplacement. The shield held against energy, not several tons of falling debris. It flickered and died, crushing the operator. The silence that followed was sudden and thick. The surviving Cathari, their assault broken by this one relentless force, began to fall back, their chitters full of a new sharp fear. He did not pursue. He simply stood amidst the carnage, his gray suit smeared with strange fluids, his breathing even. He looked back at her, his expression unreadable behind the suit's visor. Now retracted, the Ixion guards and survivors stared at him, not with gratitude at first, but with a species of awe bordering on terror. They had seen dances of light and shield. They had never seen anything so personally, intimately destructive. Back in their chambers, as the distant sounds of the hegemony's fleet finally engaging echoed, she faced him. He was wiping down his gear. The quiet man returned, but he could never be that man again. The ghost had become a mountain. "You were a soldier," she said, her voice trembling. "I was," he acknowledged. "The Shithari infantry are renowned. You ended them." He looked up. "They are strong. They are brave. They are predictable. They rely on their armor, their energy weapons. They fight as a hive. Break the node, the body falters. Their technology has a rhythm. Disrupt the rhythm." It was like, "You are not fighting. You were solving." "That is what infantry does," he said simply. "It solves the problem in front of it, with the tools it has. The treaty. They sent you as a joke. A placeholder. For them, yes. For my people, it was an opportunity. A seat at the table, bought with my service. And my silence." She understood then. The K'thari had loaned the tool, thinking it inert. They had not understood what the tool was, what it had been forged in. The endless, grinding, pragmatic wars of humanity, where victory was not about glory, but about survival, about finding the weakness, the seam, the rhythm, and breaking it. She had married a symbol for peace. But the symbol was a blade, and now everyone had seen its edge. The K'thari splinter was broken, their attack a failure. But the true shockwave was just beginning. The hegemony looked at her human husband with new eyes. The Imperium would soon hear of the god of battle in the gray suit. He finished his task and stood. The stillness was back, but now she saw it for what it was. Not emptiness, but potential energy. A coiled spring. A solved equation waiting for its variables. Piece, she realized, had not been purchased by their marriage. It had been hanging.